if you want to have a good business, if you can't build a good team, you can't do anything. You can't do anything. You'll never be rich.
If I could give advice to anybody on any team who is thinking through a transition, like do not fear the unknown of what's next.
Oh, yeah.
We know that the Titanic was built by professionals. We know that Noah's Ark was built by amateurs, and we know where both of those ended up theoretically, right?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Indestructible Joy podcast, committed to Indestructible Joy. I've never been more excited about a guest before. I have tremendous respect for this guy. We've been friends for how long now? I guess like 20 years.
Yeah, I'm pushing it right inside 20
you were
years.
there at the Rock's very beginning, right?
Yes, I was there day one and pre-day one.
You helped set up chairs and stuff too.
Yeah, 100%. I rolled tape.
Yes, that's right. Mingo.
Yes.
I just know you by Mingo.
Yeah. I don't want any more documentation down.
Yeah. His street name is the same as mine, so I'm not going to say the last name.
I love it.
It's a weird coincidence. The whole topic today is going to be on building team. If you want to have a good business, if you can't build a good team, you can't do anything. You can't do anything in the business world, period. You can't do anything. You'll never be rich. You'll never be rich or successful in this world. Mingo is a pastor at it's a big church in
La
it's
Jolla.
actually a huge whatever $200 million.
It's a big facility.
Yeah.
It's not mine, but
I know nonprofits are. Because,
yeah,
okay,
but I do enjoy getting to build and operate on a team there. But then I have a couple of different hats, right? We have like the long, ambiguous moniker hat.
Man. And entrepreneur. I got to say, one of the things I respect about this guy, because I was in the church world, deep professional Christian, 16 years, pastor, had a whole ass team. That's what we're going to talk about, because his team was amazing. Yeah. And you were part at one point. You came through. I don't even remember what your
when I landed on your team, I actually knew I was going to get like an upgraded master's degree in like team jiu-jitsu. Like I knew that it was going to be a different it was like a Matrix level, seeing like ones and zeros through the mess.
We played by no rules and were the most productive, hands down.
And the happiest. That's like the most important
the only
part.
ones that weren't weird.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah. Actually enjoyed like our team times.
Yeah. It was, it was a great season. You did the microsites, which was what a great idea. Some context is I was outreach pastor. We had all these different outreach ministries. Mingo took this idea of microsites. He took speakers to all these places in the hood and just big screens and
set up shop.
And the people that are showing up there, I mean, you're junkies, it's
right.
It's to me, it's more, that's why I loved outreach. That's why I survived there so many years, because the outreach was just the people that went outside the church.
I loved it because it gave me a hall pass to get out of the office.
Yeah.
Didn't have to stay inside of like the bunker.
Yeah.
But two, I think that you actually got to meet the people that you in your bones knew that you wanted to do this for. It's not for the people that show up, they drive their Tesla in.
Yeah.
They're like happy, clean cut, pressed shirts.
Yeah.
You want to kind of go to the people who are having a hard time with all things and go, hey, it's going to get better.
Well, if you think about it, a homeless person can't really go to church. They can't show up. They stink. They got a bag. They're going to get searched by security. It's just not.
I think of all the versions of people that couldn't show up for a particular time or for a particular reason, right? Rehabbers. We were, we were in a pocket full of bars. Yeah. We were doing gyms. There's people who are so committed to like a lifestyle that fitting this in didn't work for them. So we wanted to reverse engineer it, and we'll come fit to you.
See, I loved that, because none of the ideas, and at the end there was literally 200 ministries that had gone through there, and none of it was my idea. It was everything from. It was everything from. I think the only thing I did right is I just said, because whenever someone has an idea, I'm like, yeah, go do that.
Yeah, because
I don't remember sweating you once about anything.
No, and I boil it down to like one word. I love the word propeller. Like, I want to be a propeller. I want to move people in the direction that they're already aimed at. Like, a lot of times people just need the energy push to go, I believe you can do it.
That's a good word for that, yeah.
I think you can do it. And I'll be the propeller with you for this season.
Yeah, that's all we did. You can do it. You can do
Totally.
it. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
And they did it
the shocking is that if you knew that you had to do more than just propel somebody, you knew it wasn't going to work, right? Because they'd show up and go, oh, can you fill in this gap that I don't know how to fill in? Or can you be the person to go call this person?
Right.
Can you get me space? And you go this isn't going to work if you're not willing to go solve all of those questions on your own time.
That's that. And some of the people that I'm going to have to shout out to, in the beginning, Michelle helped, because I had, at the time there was 13 ministries and I have 0, administrative. And Michelle, she was the deaf ministry leader. And she ended up starting a deaf foster home and fostering all kinds of deaf kids, doing amazing things with it. But she just was like, literally one day, she's like, I feel like, because Lisa was trying to start a ministry.
Got it.
I feel like you need help. And for 2 years, it's like she just, on volunteer status, matter of fact, she still does all my flights and stuff now.
You still have her connected to like Tommy Enterprises?
Yesterday and booking stuff that I'm traveling for. Oh yeah, she's 100%.
Well, and you know why? Because she's connected to that deeper core value of being a propeller. She knows that she's a part of a system that's moving things forward.
She's so good. Then there was a bunch in between. There was some really good ones. Christina Paiva was, I hope I don't miss any names. Sharon Pradika, Mark Richardson.
He's got the sweetest gig now.
Bro's a pastor in Oahu now.
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing about him? I gotta say, what I did love about Church World, and that's this whole thing is, there's some extraordinary opportunity to build team in those kind of religious structures, work structures. And I think if you build
just the nonprofit sector in general,
anything where it's volunteers and people, because he showed up for an interview first he showed up to Wright Cross at 100 and nothing pounds. And I tapped him out like 10 times. I just remember that he wouldn't quit. He kept going again and again. I'm like, bro, come on. You
can only snap somebody in half so many times.
And then when he was leaving, he goes, I feel like God's calling me to quit my job and go into ministry full time. I'm just like casually, you should do that. And the dude, like 2 days later, he's at there in a suit applying for an internship, which I didn't even know there was an application process to come work for
free. He came dressed for something, though.
I'm thinking he's going for an interview or something. And I'm like, so what do you got going today? I'm thinking because he quit his job and maybe looking for a new one. He goes, this is it. I was like, dude, you're hired for free.
Let me put you somewhere.
The dude worked for over a year. Full time.
Yeah.
$0.
Yeah.
Just was there. 8 a.m.
I guarantee if you asked him though, what did I learn? It would have been, you couldn't put a price tag on what he had
and if
picked
anyone
up.
messed with him, from that day on, it was like back up off him. You got something bad to say to him, get out.
Well, it actually makes you the most dangerous person in the room if you're not doing it for dollars. Isn't it so true? Because there's nothing that can be held over your head.
I remember being pissed because they'd make everyone go for a staff meeting. I'm like, why can't I just be like Mark? Not go in. Oh, and then it went on to the outreach directors. I mean, there was Zeb, there was Greg, and these people are still doing great.
They all have a deep, rich impact on humanity in each of their respective lanes. Yeah, you can go follow any of them on Instagram and see that they themselves have honed these skills on developing great teams and serving, in their lane. I've always said,
if you want to be like Jesus, he wasn't in synagogue. He was out in the mix.
Yeah. I feel like you almost had to catch him. It was like, he had to make an appearance in the temple. He's like, this is not where I'd prefer to be, but I got to go knock this one out before I go back to where I'd actually rather be.
Where it matters. Yeah. And these are all people that at one point, for whatever reason, someone had said, no, they can't, not qualified. I was like, bring him anyway.
Yeah.
Tim Nice, another one. HR had their reasons for that. I'm like, no, bring him anyway.
Yeah.
And they end up doing great in the whole thing. Lisa Simmons, she's the one that broke down at the end, and they told her to lie to me, and she was like, she just broke down. She came straight to me. She's such an awesome hearted person. Who else was there? Rebecca was one of the admins, but the Michelle KJ combo. Oh, August Hunter was an outreach director at one
point. Sock check on August Hunter. Out of respect.
Respect.
No slouchy socks.
He was the only gangster. I remember one time sitting in a room and there was like 30 pastors. And I remember if someone came in and was going to kick my ass, would any of these fuckers even stick up on me? And I remember I looked around, I saw August. I said, he would.
This guy's qualified.
He would. Yeah. He would. Man.
I have a question for you, though. Based on that whole roster of people, because my gut tells me that whoever's listening to the episode doesn't know who they are, but what were the like qualifiers for those people. You said
flexibility.
Okay.
That's the word I used all the time. Be flexible. I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not following rules. I didn't say that, but that's kind of, now that I look back, that's how it went. So it was always annoying when people had this idea of what it was supposed to be. I'm like, man,
like a rigidity.
No, just go.
Yeah.
Just go, do it.
Yeah.
And always, just look for people. My philosophy is this. I don't want to do any work. I mean, biblically, I mean, I
don't want to go outside of my lane. I don't want to go outside of my lane.
I don't want to do work.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, have you ever seen me work?
I've never seen you sweat a bullet point or a task or anything. Frankly, if I'm actually really thinking about it, you've only ever like moved inside of the thing that was like captive to your attention in the moment.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I can't not be that way. It's called ninja level ADHD. I just can't. I remember I would go in meetings and I'd just bring a notepad and pen. They weren't even mine. I just bring the notepad and pen, knowing damn well I'm gonna pretend like I'm interested. Get up and go to the bathroom and not come back.
I actually remember you in one certain circumstance. You walked out of a meeting, and then on the way to your office, you just dropped a notepad on some random desk. Walking out, it was like a dummy. It was like a prop. It was a prop for like significance.
I just couldn't. I can remember at the very end when I was on the executive team, ELT, whatever you want to call it. I remember sitting there thinking there's so many people who would love to be sitting here and I'm not one of them. That was at the end where it's like, you know what? And then, ended up, let's fight.
But even that, those are dynamics about team that are also super valuable, because when you realize at a certain point that you're not excited to be within a team, you know that there's some shift that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I think there's way too many people who sit and despite that feeling, and they actually corrupt or they slow or they divert a team's potential because they're not willing to be honest about the seat they're sitting in.
In contrast to some of the meetings you had, there people want to be there.
Yeah,
like the team.
Well, once you get into a spot on the team where you're doing the thing that you absolutely love,
didn't meet unless we actually needed to meet.
It doesn't feel like work. And you get together because you're motivated for something that's not a need-based thing. It's like a desire-based thing. I actually want to see something come to life. I want to see something get knocked out. So it doesn't become like this heel-dragging structural thing. It's more like, I feel like the energy multiplies when you are aimed at something that's really exciting. And you're lucky if you're on a team that's like that.
That's well put.
Yeah.
That's well put. That's key to make a team, because if there's not buying and they're just doing it on.
Right.
I think that, and when it came to anything volunteer, microsites, the whole thing, when you're dealing with volunteers, they don't have to be there.
Totally.
So if you don't figure out how to get them to some kind, I want to hear about how did microsites even come about? Because I just remember they kind of started and everybody's like, what the hell is this?
It's the best new shiny thing.
It was a shiny thing for a second, and then it was somehow on the not good radar, and that's when they put you under me, I think.
Right. So microsites.
But then I think it even grew after that.
Well, anything I think under your thumb has grown, which is, I think, the reason why people want to stick with you.
There's a God thing. There's a God thing.
Microsites were exactly what Tommy said earlier. They were like a version of a pop-up church. You know how like retail stores have like pop-up locations? They'll show up at like a music festival.
Oh yeah.
Or they'll show up kind of where like where the crowd is.
Yeah, that's a good
most of the time. Like retail entity, they've got investment in bricks, and it's hard to move the bricks. So they build pop-up versions of themselves to show up wherever the like critical mass is. That's exactly what a microsite was for a local church or a gathering.
No other churches were doing that.
No, we were like kind of
no other churches were doing the outreach like that either.
Nobody was doing, I think, live stream at the time. And because we had live stream, which everybody was like, this is the golden goose. I just was like, what do we do with the golden goose to make things really off the grid?
Yeah, and you even assembled and built kits.
Yeah, we engineered like a whole, like there was nothing out there that we could buy to serve our.
Had a business on the side.
I was selling.
I remember someone coming to me saying,
I got called into an office.
They talked to me and I'm like, what?
Who is this?
I'm going to go yelling at
Who's
him
this check going
speakers?
to actually? Yeah. I actually had to invite my friend. I'll give a shout out. I had a friend named Louie who his dad owned a lowrider shop in Barrio Logan. And I was like, I know you don't want like going to church, but I know you have what it takes to kind of engineer this thing with me. And here's what it's going to do. All the people that you know who would never step foot into a church, I think we can put one in front of them if you'd be willing to help me engineer this thing. He took it on as a project, and then his dad planted a microsite at his auto shop, his lowrider shop, to all these gangsters, to all these like gang members, and he still pastors a church out of that location, awesome. Which is awesome. The gear is long gone, but the motive to be a part of something that was bigger than him always stuck, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah.
So that's how I got, I think, my chops. I cut my teeth on team dynamics because I was passionate about it. It was something that I got to lead and got paid for, which was a huge blessing. That doesn't happen to everybody who desires to lead on a team. You don't just get handed money to try.
Right.
But we quickly multiplied. I think it was 38 teams by the time I was done.
What was the reason they stopped loving it? Because they
everything
goes from
innovation,
sheet to go. There, everybody goes from sheet to go. It took me way longer than
innovation.
anything.
I think at the end of the day challenges the thing it's birthed out of. And if you see it like children, it changes your perspective. But if you see it only strictly as a business, even if it is a ministry, it becomes a threat.
Taking the especially starts growing.
Yeah. And at one point we were on pace to outgrow, I think, the smallest brick and mortar mortgage. And that was a major disruptor.
And the top one, I know exactly who would be like, we can't have that because this is.
Because this one is so disruptive. It costs us
I can
nothing.
See that so clearly.
It's a fixed cost.
As soon as, because remember the outreach, at 3,000 volunteers. And remember that Miles was such a numbers guy. We got a whole team collecting numbers. So you know the math on every month to month. 3,000 volunteers out there, all this different stuff. The salvation started way outnumbering the ones on Sunday. Because when I first took over Baby Rocks, I said, we're going to outrun Sundays. And the dude's he's the best evangelist.
A crazy
he's the best
statement
evangelist
too.
I think I've ever seen. Too. I got to say, man, the dude's a communicator ninja level.
I have nothing but respect for the people that I've like held court under in every season.
You know what? I actually think this
is a big moment because if you're going to speak, this is like coming back on record after 14 years.
Yeah.
You're going to go on record.
I actually think you respect someone more when you fight them, you know? So I respect the church more.
They say like race, you're not racing unless you're rubbing.
Yeah. You know what? Here's how I can sum the whole thing up. We're not talking about this. We'll keep the theology out. But I will say this. You can easily break up the church and Christianity. No problem. Never turn back. You can't not believe in Jesus, though. I don't know if you ever tried that. I have. I was like, okay, that doesn't. I tried to disprove that, and it was just almost like there was just something inside just saying, just stop. Don't be dumb.
It's good.
You can be mad at the church, but
well, and I think and God is big enough to deal with the seasonality of your
God
heart.
Keeps sending random like Christians that are like legit Christians. I'm like trying to make them creepy, and they're like not.
I love it.
Yeah.
So back to teams. That concept of loving something despite your assignment, because it was an assignment, right? Hey, we need to get this in front of more faces.
Yes.
I just loved what it was doing outside of the pitch deck. I loved what it was doing outside of the cover letter, which was like, hey, we're going to put this content in front of more faces. I was more interested in like the names,
bringing the people
and
together.
The people. Yes, I loved it. And
well, there was a couple people, at least twice from microsites. I know one was a microsite where I gave someone a ride to rehab.
Totally
from there,
and Tommy was a big part of that. So I think the beauty in like that effort in particular was every team has like. They have an end goal, right? We're going to achieve this much. We're going to have this big of a bottom line. We're going to go launch this thing. For us, at the end of the day, the team's only goal was to serve people who it got in close proximity to. And what I loved about like the lottery in it was that every chance to serve was something different. So for one guy, it was, hey, we want to all rally behind you and get you into rehab. And that's a big deal.
Oh, that's awesome.
For somebody else, it's like, hey, we want to move a mom out of the shelter and into her own apartment so her kids can have a safe place to sleep.
Man, in retrospect, that's the best breakdown of the smallest version. This is what a church should be, but tying your community, because you're going to be more community when you're just that few people. Well,
the random thing is that I think the church loses that heartbeat when it starts seeing its bills.
Oh, so
that is a critical dynamic change.
Yeah, we'll save that for another podcast.
And the church I'm currently at, we have like, fluid bills, the same that you would have, like electric bill, water bill. Yeah. But like, we're lucky that the hill we're sitting on in La Jolla is cashed out. There was a team that was smart enough to think about every generation that was going to come after it.
That's incredible.
Which has allowed me to be wildly creative.
Property. So if you're not worried about paying for that place, oh, that's an incredible.
Well, and think about how it affects my team. My team is not stressed by the mortgage and by the bottom line. They live in the freedom of that like team decision 50 years ago to take it on their shoulders so that the next generation that stood on top of theirs would have a little bit more of an advantage.
That is pretty huge. That is huge. Yeah. You know what? You're one of the people, your path makes me smile because you embraced embraced professional Christianity. Like
it's my call.
You know, I gotta say when I said F you to the church, you're a jerk, F you, you know, when I did all that, there's only a handful of people.
Forgive you,
man, they
forgive
thinned
you,
out.
Forgive you.
There's a thinned out, and there was a few that were just.
I was here for the show.
Eating popcorn.
I was here for the show. I wanted to see how both sides of the coin were going to react because when real like human to human tension happens, that's when the real version of everybody comes out.
To be honest, once they fired KJ and she had just had that baby and it was just because of she worked for me.
Yeah,
I was like, gloves are off. Let's go. Let's go to war. I'll take. I think
everybody needs
bring
to
the Catholics on too.
They need to go through a bit of they got to go through some turmoil to show what's really under the skin.
There was time, James I still meet with sometimes. Can't get him in trouble because he doesn't work there anymore.
Innovator.
He is an innovator.
Yeah.
Brilliant dude. Brilliant dude. Should have kept him on the app side and tech side. But anyway, because you remember he was chief of staff from IT to chief of staff.
And he was knocking out all of his own dreams and goals through the rhythm of that lane. He was crushing it.
He was killing it. And I could see him in the executive meetings like this. Like,
he didn't fall on hard times.
He was like me. Don't care what you guys are saying.
Totally.
But he had told me one time, so we go to lunch every once in a while. I haven't been for a while. But he would just laugh. He'd be like, Tommy, we'd have hours-long meetings of what are we going to do with Tommy at the end. And they're meetings I was supposed to be at, but I just didn't go. But Miles one time came in and said, someone please tell me how the whole church reports to Tommy.
Yeah.
Because remember everything, it just ended up there.
Yeah.
It's because everybody's lazy. And I was like, okay, fine. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, I'm going to wrap a thought in a like Christian like illustration because it applies to that statement of like, how in the world did this guy running teams end up with the whole org chart somehow kind of inside of his
like people like KJ and Michelle built it.
I heard one time said really well, like you can see the teams, the people that you work alongside of as a staff, or you can treat them like a true team. And if you treat them like staff, the problem is that the motivator is finances, which makes it's fine if that's the context you're in. That makes everybody a professional, right? You're paid professional to sit at the seat you're on the staff that you're in. So we all understand that paid professionals sit in seats. The root word for amateur, do you know what it is? Like I would take you back to like the Greek, the Greek flex here, right? The root word in the word amateur is the word amor. It's for love. It's because you love it.
For the passion of it.
It's for the passion of it.
Oh, man, that's a good one.
I've heard it said that you'd rather sit with a team of amateurs than a staff of professionals because they're doing it because they love it.
That is the best I've heard that worded.
Now, let me give you a working illustration of it. So we know that the Titanic was built by professionals. We know that Noah's Ark was built by amateurs, and we know where both of those ended up theoretically, right? So like, you got to ask yourself, you probably have a blended version of that on a staff or a team, but don't get caught in the idea that having paid professionals is the better win when you can have people passionate. A good point.
And you are going to have both those on your team. I look like this. At any given time, you got a superstar pulling more weight than anyone. You got a bunch of middle ground that are on the team. But you always got a couple terrorists that are poking holes in the freaking raft for some reason.
That might have been who I was. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, or I'd rather try a different angle. And they're like, please don't fight the flow.
You know what? That's the only... I'm 100% convinced.
But the only reason why I did it is because I was passionate.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was
you weren't trying
earning.
To break rules.
No.
To break rules.
And I wasn't going to get paid a whole lot more, frankly. So like,
yeah,
it was out of a conviction of passion that I wanted to see things change or tried differently or approached from a different vantage point?
There was one point, because I reported to, I couldn't even think of the list. I think it was 13 different people in that time. And there was one point I didn't report to anyone because the one guy, Steve, went his way. And they forgot to reassign me. And like 2 years later, Miles was like, "Who do you report to?" I was like, "I don't know, you, I guess." You could just see who's not,
right. Who made that decision?
Yeah, but it was, some of the, I feel like God just brings great people in my life, top, bottom, everywhere. Because I learned something from each one of them. Not one of them did I listen to. Like there was just not one of them that I listened to, but they seemed to let me. There was one time when I forget who it was. Someone was bitching to Miles that I wasn't listening about this, or I don't know, whatever it was. It wasn't following along. But it had to do with these outreaches being a liability. And this is the beginning when he wanted to do it. So he was just like, when it was just me and him, I'm gonna put him on blast. He's like, just do whatever it takes to get it done. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And just basically was like, you don't need to listen to anyone else, get it done. And in my mind, I was like, say less. In the next 10 years, that's all I did.
I think you understood, like, again.
He got it. He just didn't want to hear about it.
Well, and you're smart because you understood
slow me down. And they were doing great things. And he loved that stuff.
Totally. Well, and it's all about.
And then he didn't.
Yeah, it's like a sandbox theory. You ever hear like leadership described that way? Like, if you can tell me the perimeters of the sandbox, I will go to work inside of that thing. The problem is if you can't clearly define
exactly what it is.
Perimeters.
Oh, yeah. That's a good,
Because then you end up building outside of where kind of the expectation unspoken is, and then you end up getting called into the executive office, right?
I do think I learned, you could not pay for the lessons that you learn there. And underneath it all, I do throw out there because I'm always giving him a hard time, but as an entrepreneur, I got nothing but respect for Miles. As an entrepreneur, he built a kingdom. You're like, okay, your muscles. That doesn't just happen by itself. That
no, and you got to think,
by itself.
No matter what your history is with any part of the local church, the Rock specific, that started in a scratch and pull
SDSU.
effort.
I was pulling shares. Yeah. Nobody saw it. Nobody believed he was going to be able to do any of that. And he
and I still believe in lots of what's happening there through the different pockets of ministry expression that kind of floats to my table. But I was bought in from day one. I was like back broken, rolling tape on lines across an entire Montezuma Hall from the back to the front.
You were rolling tape when I was setting up chairs at that same place.
Well, and wouldn't that in and of itself speak to kind of the dynamic of even like kids today who show up ready to do something big on your team, and it's like, tell me where you're willing to start.
Like on Mark Richardson, when they're ready to go all in, you say, okay, I got you. I'll keep you busy.
I'll quit my job and start working for free.
I'll keep you busy.
In a suit. Yeah. I don't have that many phone calls.
What about James? Matter of fact, I used to help you guys unload and load sometimes.
Totally. And James is still working inside of the rhythm of
I think
the church.
I feel like he's still at SDSU.
Probably. No, I know he's down at Eastlake, but he is the master of what he did. He stayed in that lane.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Not one thing I regret about it. Not one thing I'd do again. But I just, it makes me smile the whole time thinking about it because it was such a wonderful group of people. Yeah, of course there was a lot of chaos, and of course at the end, I wouldn't have changed that either.
Yeah, no. And chaos reveals all the best and worst parts of somebody. So
it does.
Yeah, you just get to go like, all right, here we are.
It was such a random, like your literal job as a pastor, not random, but my job's to equip the saints, which is you, not me, to do the work of the ministry. So my job is not to work.
Your work is equipping.
I ran with that, and it turns out that's how you do it.
I think people undersell equipping. Frankly, like that's just like if somebody wants to do something big.
That's a propeller thing. Go.
Yeah, it's propeller.
That's equipping.
And the problem is that a lot of people don't have the energy or the inertia to be, I want to say, consistent, reliable propeller. Yeah. They just think, oh man, you just get up and say, go for it. But like the challenge in that, as much fun as it is like there's a big liability that comes backwards when somebody goes, who gave that person permission to run? Like you are a gambler on who you put your dice, who you put your chips on.
I gotta tell this one quick story because I would let anyone, you want to do it? Okay, go. And they'd be like, I don't even think they're theological sound this and that. I'm like, they said they'd do it.
What's the baseline? What do you want to do?
This, that, and the other. I'm like,
well, you ended up with a bunch of former strippers.
Oh, well, that's what I was just going to tell you about. The one time, the one came up to me at a ministry fair. They're in ministry like 2 years, and they're huge. They're like, I don't know, they're going deep with like 30 people. It's awesome. She had a Bible study at her house with like 35 people. I remember she invited me to speak one time. I'm like, no, I come pretty
Strippers
sure
probably too sharp a word. Former adult entertainment.
Yeah, that's what they go. No,
professionals.
Yeah, exactly, because it was everything from escorts. But she came in one time, and she'd been leading the ministry for like 3 years. I loved her. She was an awesome girl. I'm not going to say her name because this is kind of funny. And then like 2 years into it, she comes to me and says, hey, gives me 5. Hey, give me 5. And I got 1 year clean off of cocaine today. And I'm like,
how long have you been running this? You're like, how long have you been?
I don't remember hearing about this a year ago, number one. But you know what? No regrets. Look what she did.
Or more importantly, if you're gonna scratch at that story, you can go all the way back to every Bible story of Jesus calling somebody out of their world and be like, so was it a snap of a finger?
Or was it no way I could tell anyone.
Was it a spectrum of transformation?
Well, remember, there was a team of people governing my
every breath.
Yeah, if anything was out of bounds, they were quick to and they were all out of bounds.
I love
That's
that
why I just
person,
kept things below.
And I love that story because you know what? They become the biggest believers in the power of
and you see Jesus
a
in
team.
Exactly. Yeah. But you see in a regular life, you're like, regular person, but for sure.
Yeah, Jesus, a superstar behind the scenes. Yeah. I loved it because we had her efforts, your leadership in my world of microsites, they all interconnected when it was like, hey, it's time to put a church right in the dressing room for these girls that will never get a Sunday off.
Was that Cheetahs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And it was it was so crazy because I've never been to a strip club, and all of a sudden I'm trying to think through, okay, what is this going to actually look like? I remember putting the proposal on the table, and they're like, you're going to show church for dudes who are showing up at the strip club expecting to be entertained. I was like, no. This is for the girls as they're getting ready in their locker room or whatever they get ready, their dressing room in the back. They're going to be doing service together back there.
That is an incredible, that whole ministry, everything about it. I mean, look at the recovery. Started Rock Recovery.
Genesis Recovery.
Genesis is the men's version. The men's version is even bigger. I'm not sure how many houses they got.
Yeah.
The Mount Soledad Recovery. But that all started as Rock Recovery.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
that's funny. You know what's funny about that? Remember Kevin Ratchford?
Yeah.
My crazy friend. Love you, Kevin. Him and I started Rock Recovery. It was 2 of us. And that birthed from the next Friday I had to show up. I'm like, I'm not going to show up every week. So I called Dave Powers. I'm like, I think this is something the Lord's calling you to do.
Yeah.
And he took the ball, bonfire, and then he just took the ball and ran with it.
I don't think
that's birthed out of again, find people and propel them. Don't do the work yourself.
Most people probably won't until they sit and really think about it, how much impact you had on just giving them permission to try. At the end of the day, that is actually one of the most powerful things.
Mime ministry, we said.
Yeah. I won't claim a mime. I won't claim anything to do with the miming ministry.
We had a mime ministry.
But think about it. That person was sitting on that idea for how long? And they were like, man, if somebody could just say yes.
I loved it. You know what? That's why I loved him more than anything, because he was faithful, man. He turned his report in.
I love it.
It was. And what's funny is I went and saw, and bless his soul, man. I love the dude. I went because maybe I don't understand mime. I guess that's not my thing. But I went and watched one of his performances. I think it was supposed to be the gospel. What I was told.
Okay.
I can't.
Was he behind glass? Was he behind the wall?
It was, I don't know what was going on.
Did he slide the door? Did he slide the door eventually?
I was like, I don't know one part of that story was just going on there.
You know who else I was thinking about?
You know what? The dude was so passionate, so faithful. He didn't care. Like he was, because I'm sure to mimes, he was probably black belt at mime.
I think of the body rock stuff that you allowed. And that's, so
we had an MMA fight in there,
right?
And when they told me not to,
no, well, I think you've proven the point that you've done plenty where you've been told not to. But I'm going to highlight the fact that by saying yes to one person, propelling one person, nobody would have bargained that she would have been the cog for 20 dance teams.
Yes.
So you just don't know until you get behind a person and go like, I think you can. And then you got to think for every.
And did you ever see one of those?
I went to a bunch. Every year we would go to
like them. They're the same ones. Those same Jabberwockies perform at it. Yeah,
totally. And what I think impacts me is sometimes you only have like just enough vision to see the gamble on one person's yes.
Yeah.
But you have no clue what that person's like multiplicity will be. And the good for every kid that joined a dance team that didn't end up on the streets or in like a bad circle of friends or, had trouble at home, that was life-giving. And it wasn't because you did it. It's because you gave somebody permission to try it. You know?
Not a lot got done, Tommy.
You don't think so. I think you could line a hallway up of people who would say, you said yes, and because you did, I'm at where I'm at today because of it.
Well, I'll take that. I loved it. It was absolutely my best part of the 16 years. I'm telling you though, 16 years was like 1,000. Like I feel like a vampire after that. Like I watching this original.
They say it's dog years. Yeah, in any ministry, it's dog years. Yeah.
It's beyond, because you learn so many lessons.
Yeah.
So many great lessons though. I love it. I've come full corner. I'm more meta-religious now. I think that's the term Max gave
That's
me.
a bold statement.
Is because you can't walk away from God. You can try.
Hard when he's omnipresent.
You can, but it's just the glass on the ground and your skin needs your skin. And you're like, okay,
he's
fine,
the mist. He's everywhere, bro.
Fine.
He's everywhere.
And I don't know what the word for it is, but whatever it is, it's so real, and it became more real. See, that's why I think I know you something better when you fight it. It came more real when I fought against it.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of examples of that in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And the New Testament.
I trip out on Jesus didn't like anyone except. Here's one for you. So the prodigal son, it's called the prodigal son. I just did a video on this actually.
You're going to make it right now.
The prodigal son's called the prodigal son. It's not called the lame brother that's butthurt because he sat home and he was good and nobody liked him and he didn't get anything.
Right.
Brought him back, and even the 199 sheep brings one back and expects the rest of the 99 to rejoice. Now, the 99's only significance in the entire Bible is 3 words: left the 99.
Yeah, it's true.
So where's God at? He's not with the 99.
After the rebellious.
I say you intentionally break all the rules.
Don't tell my kid that. There. Please don't tell my children that. I think what I like about the word...
Because if you break them, you know why you should keep them, or if you should.
Right.
You develop your own...
Well, it's that sandbox theory. You're figuring out where the boundary is.
You will learn that making people feel bad makes you feel bad.
Yeah, it's true.
Making people feel good, helping them, helps you. Learn that basic thing and just help some people out.
Like
Don't be an
asshole. The power of
reciprocity. I
like the word prodigal, and I felt like I understood it better when it means the word reckless. It's reckless, right? And so they attribute it to the son, but like the best phrase, like father, like son. So everybody points to the kid who's just like wayward to the moon, but the dad is actually way more reckless in the context of what he does.
Oh, it is afterwards.
To welcome his own bloodline back to the fold.
Half of the money.
Yeah, his whole...
If my kid blows half my money, I might be like,
how reckless are you? And in what version of recklessness will you be? But you won't ever turn on your own.
No.
And so like, I think that to me excites me because it's a recklessness in redemption. Reckless
the whole
redemption.
Bible's a book of redemption.
Totally.
The whole Bible's a book of redemption. Yeah. The whole thing.
Yeah.
And it has nothing, the only other person that's mentioned righteous in the Bible, Job. How'd that work out for him?
Boils.
He said boils. One word.
Yeah. The Bible's funny, man. You get like a version of it from the pulpit at any church, but what I love is when you go along with people in life who have like done anything, who have just done anything other than work at a church, man, there's some rich stuff you can like extract out of it, apply to your life. That's why I follow you, Tommy. That's why I like you, because you've gone and done a bunch of other wayward things that no pastor would ever step their freaking toe into. And you still come back and go, I haven't left this yet. I'm certainly looking at other things, but I'm here. I am your number one popcorn fan, because I'm like, let's see what happens.
My new thing. You know what my new thing? I'm encouraging Christians to do this. Do you have any Muslim friends?
By way of our children's friends, totally.
Get to know them and say,
in our neighborhood,
you know what?
Totally.
And say this, and don't worry, I'm telling you, you're not going to lose your salvation. Say this. Let me go pray with you guys. That's all they do is pray. They don't preach. They don't expect you
just
to go.
Went and did that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I do it all the time. I love it. It's like it's more like yoga than religion in my mind because I don't. But it is. How is it a different God? Same Abraham. We don't need to go deep on this.
Yeah.
But you just kind of realize. Go around other people. Be where they are.
Totally.
And most people would never do that because, I might be praying. No, God's not going to be like,
No, and I think most people are actually afraid that they're not going to have an answer or the answers.
And instead you want to bring them
Well, and that
back.
obsession even, think about like kind of what's
the thing is they're not trying to convert you. That's a Christian thing.
Right.
They're just like,
that's a roster thing.
Even when I asked him, I said, what if I believe Jesus is still Son of God? He's just like, you're asking the wrong questions.
Well, we have
no one cares.
Yeah, I don't want to like name names. We have a family that comes to our church, and the husband is like seemingly indifferent, but the wife was like, "Yeah, I'm a Muslim. Can I come to church here?" I was like, "I love that you're here. Like, anytime you want to talk about your thoughts, and if you're interested in my thoughts,
you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to.
Right? You talk a lot about control.
That I didn't know anything about it, and I looked at it. I was like, "What? Why is everyone talking shit about this?" That's kind of what was me. I enjoyed it.
You do give a fair, I think, survey of all things that you like.
I was actually looking for weirdness and I couldn't really find it.
Have you put any of that weirdness on your body by ink yet? Has it like made its way influencing you?
Bro.
Yeah, let's go. Dang, we have to put the blurs.
This is the first word. Jesus, I got guardian angels. I got the whole
I love it. I love it. It's a story. It's the story of your journey of just like going and like you said, terrorist poking your fingers through the net of all things. Totally.
Just this was put here. I was playing rock staff football. I mean, we had people like Darren Carrington played with us.
A whole roster of football players.
So I just put this here because I wanted Jesus to be the last thing they saw. That was the reason. That's
actually really funny. And didn't you have big old shotgun yielding guardian angels? Yeah, like double barrel shotguns.
I have a guardian angel cutting off the head of a devil. I can't really show that because
please don't. Just for the sake of, for my kids to see this in time.
You know what? Yeah, we might have to edit that part out.
If you just cut to me, I think we'll be fine.
Not really shredded enough.
Usually you stand up and
should hold this way. I'm showing this.
Oh my gosh. Anyway. Yeah, it's the long road. Yeah. The recklessness. Prodigal Tommy. You should hold that handle if it's not already taken.
Prodigal Tommy. There's our book title.
Yeah.
That's actually a good one. That's a really fucking good one, actually.
I'm only here for good things, Tommy.
You are.
I'm only here for good things.
What was here's what I want to know. We'll take it all completely off the business thing. What are you most grateful for in the tender at the Rock? Outside it launched you into amazing where now what was the best number one thing that you get there that you couldn't get anywhere else?
The Rock uniquely, I think, puts you into like a mixing bowl of high, ultra capable, ultra caliber people. I think that place uniquely was a magnet to the highest pedigree.
Everyone wanted to work there.
Of performers. And the reason why it was the highest pedigree of performers is because there was no shortage of applicants. So they really got to cherry pick the best of the best of the best when it came to, character, experience, and willingness to just break your back trying to get something done. So I knew when I got invited in, when I got, a shot at being a part of that roster, I was going to be amongst super talented contemporaries. Yeah. And I just did not want to take any of that for granted. And when I left that, I knew that was actually the risk, was that I wasn't going to be around breakneck speed people. And you kind of like the idea that you're going to kind of shift down gears and kind of slow a bit, or kind of like you're not going to be in the same ecosystem
under the same pressure.
Right. But a pressure cooker does what? Like it turns coal to diamonds, right? It like cooks your chicken in 4 minutes. It's like a pressure cooker period does a lot of good things. It's not necessarily healthy, but it does teach you how to run in a certain capacity and velocity. I appreciated that for two reasons, really specifically. I knew where the toxicity level, you watch all those movies that have the submarines and it's like, this is the pressure and you don't want it to get into the red line because then everybody implodes and dies. I knew what it felt like to be in that red line zone just because of the leadership of other people in certain seasons. Never you, but other people for sure. So I never wanted to be somebody as the leader of a team to implement that red line for others unless it was absolutely necessary. 2, I actually knew what I was capable of. So when I went on to the next assignment, the next team, the next opportunity, I didn't sweat because I had already been in.
Oh, you'd already been in, I mean, from tape to camera to
totally.
building motorcycles.
You had ran all the way through the roster from the least important guy to maybe arguably in that season one of the most important guys, or at least one of the most longevity. And that longevity was like a badge in that place. So
it was like a thing that didn't exist.
Well, and I think
people would be like, "I'm in it for the long haul." I can remember when they would say that.
That's 17 months.
They would go,
they
would go from sheep to goat so fast.
I think there was a roster, and I kept it in my desk, of like 32 pastors at one time when I got added to the roster, and then I used to slowly like Sharpie black them out when I never added new ones. I just sharpened them out, and I think I ended up with 4 outside of me as the seniority count. And you got unfortunately Sharpied out. You got Sharpied out
because you started before me.
No, I stayed after you. So you Sharpied out on my list.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'd like to think that I'm more senior than you are.
Oh, the axe was swinging though. That sword was swinging your way too. When I was gone, you were gone. You were already.
It was the right time for me.
It was. Yeah, it was a perfect time.
Totally.
It went down. It's people involved, and who's right, who's wrong. Doesn't matter.
And for anybody that fears,
I was looking for a reason.
The Reaper, right?
Oh, and once they gave me a reason, I was like,
don't fear it.
Yeah, well, don't forget, I have experience before church, where I wasn't really godly. So it's almost like that part. You had to be so domesticated to be a pastor, a married pastor. You're kind of like.
And from like the streets of Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, but I remember
where your end goal was to be in the mafia, Tommy. That was your end goal.
It still is. But when they snapped me the end, I was like, okay, fine. Now I can breathe.
Yeah.
And it started going.
Well,
fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you.
That was never my stance, just for the record. But I will say this:
you were just standing too close. Everyone just kind of backed away for a second, and got their popcorn.
I'd like to think that the greater value walking away was like, I should have never feared the end date. That's such a like gut wrenching feel for so many people, is especially because nobody plans what's next. You have to think about what's next once you realize the runway's getting shorter.
Right.
If I could give advice to anybody on any team who is thinking through a transition, like, do not fear the unknown of what's next.
Yeah,
because there's so much goodness.
It's so much better.
Your humanity does not let you think that way, though. You need propellers in your life to remind you it gets better. There's more altitude.
Oh, especially if you start attach wife and kids. Now you have other people that you're like, okay.
Yeah. There's a time and a place to like navigate the unknowns. Scripture tells you God doesn't give you a spirit of fear. And I think it's really important to be reminded, especially on a great team, or maybe it was great and it is not as great as it is currently. Fear is something that you get the choice to let in or let out. I have a great older guy in my life who is like mentor. He's on a motorcycle 24/7. He can do laps around me. And his famous phrase that I always hold and hang on, he goes, "Don't let the old man in." Because the old man will always lead you to fear, doubt, uncertainty. Man. So don't let the old man in. Don't let him in. And I love that idea of just like, stay sharp, keep your eyes above the horizon. And if you can take anything away from your current season, no matter how toxic or amazing your team is, you are an asset to the next team you join.
And that would be, coming from that environment, if you spent some years there, that would be an understatement, because you're qualified to do just about anything.
Yeah, we got to walk. I was literally told, Mingo, you can walk onto any team you want coming out of this environment.
Oh, it's
so
true.
Choose
you're Saddleback.
wisely.
That's right. You're the Saddleback.
I did, and I loved that team, and I feared that I would
brought Ant with you.
Ant was the one that opened the door for me,
bro. He's like, and
now he's a lead pastor.
I didn't see that coming.
In Long Beach.
Of all the people, me and him were.
Did you fight?
No, not fist fight, but just everything. He was the marketing guys. We were just every meeting at each other's for 2 years. I have so much respect for him. Like he's one of the people that now that they're gone, I don't work with him. It's like, man, I should have had a friendship with him, not a.
Well, and that's also a testimony to like, this is my value prop, probably not yours, but like I think how you end on a team, it shapes your start for the next team. So you got to be really wise. You had a series of FUs, which are probably merited or not.
It all smooths out after that.
But for the most part, I think how you end it informs how you begin the next. So I'm really thankful for guys like Anthony who allowed me to see that broader lens. And he's like, hey, don't spoil your final days because I'm making room for you on a new team, and how you end is it's gonna inform how you start.
Yeah. See,
I was real keen on that.
You also are jumping church to church.
That was my storyline. Yeah.
I just decided I'm gonna break up with all of you.
Yeah. You didn't have to inform anything.
There was nobody had to like me at that point on the next team. I was building my own team. And you know what? It was what it was. It took a year to flush it out of my system, and then I still go back to. I don't regret one single thing about. I love it.
I think that's probably where people are. People probably misunderstand you who have a contextual version of you. They think, man, this guy like combusted and hates everything about where he came from, but you actually have this like
I have a
deep
passion
seated
I have
like
such
love
an affection.
for it.
It makes me smile just thinking about it. Like talking to you this whole time I'm smiling because it was just because I mean how many times did we look at each other when shit was going on, we'd be like,
it's a Coliseum, baby.
Is this really
it's a Coliseum.
Remember, like when they come in and just say, okay, we're slaying everybody in the spirit.
And you had to be ready to figure out what that was for you.
Am I going down or am I?
Yeah. I like to think that it just gave me the most varsity level chops for every assignment I was going to get from that day forward. It makes you
bulletproof. I mean, you can't. That's what my take home from the whole thing was. Get yourself under so much pressure that you can't take it, and you got to figure it out. Because when there was 12, 15 counseling calls coming in a day, that's when Stephen Ministry starts. Like, I can't.
2 or 3 of those are like suicide calls.
Yeah, I can't take all. And it started being, I can't. That's when I started to stop clearing my voicemail.
You still don't do that.
I don't. Yeah, I stopped.
Leave encouragement.
Yeah, leave encouragement. And by the way, you're not going to be able to message because it's full. Because text me. Actually, just figure it out yourself. You don't even need to text me. But anyway, that pressure, that was the Quan. Like you have to find a solution. I had to find a Michelle to help me. I had to find someone to help. It was just such a overwhelming year after year after year. I mean, think about it. We went to 5 services a week. It's 52 weeks a year, and that's a lot of.
Yeah, I think I added up the math because we were doing 37 churches every Sunday. And so I was doing multiples of 37 times 52. I was like, I have 38 years of church under my belt.
I tell people, I do the math. I'm like, time served. I'm already in heaven.
Time served.
I'm already in heaven. I cannot theologically, I can't lose my salvation.
So. I don't want to lose the thought about pressure because I think that there's a good word for people today. I think there are too many people who self-select out as the pressure goes higher. People don't give themselves enough credit for the kind of pressure they can take or they can withstand.
Yeah.
There's like too many like soft outs in our cultural context right now. People will say, no, I need a wellness day, or no, I need to I need more lion's mane or whatever. But I just go like, man, you are more resilient than you're giving yourself credit for. And it's like working out, like you don't see muscle build critically until you're maxing out, like until you're folding under weights, and you know. And so they'll get stressed and then they'll self-select out, and the pressure comes down, but they haven't built that rigidity or the stamina for that kind of level. And here's the thing: is they desire to be respected at that level. They desire to be compensated at that level. They desire to be recognized and given titles for that kind of pressure, but nobody's willing to sit in the boiler long enough to get there.
You know what? We did that. That was what that working there as a pastor provided you that for you, whether you wanted it or not.
Totally. You didn't know that you were getting that gift.
You don't even
over
realize,
time.
You don't even realize, and you're doing it. It's all great and it's all good stuff. And it's part of life, and I don't regret. But you're baking yourself for years and years in trauma. Like it's when it's like I stopped doing ride-alongs at one point because it was like, okay, there's nothing going on in the world good here. Like every place we go to, they're drunk and the kids.
Well, I have a special spot in my heart for like civil servants because it is a tough. It's a tough go.
Oh, you realize they are the ones actually on the front line. And you know what? The problem is they're not really coming at it with the whole, I'm here to minister.
Like empathy, right?
Some are, some aren't. There were some I liked right on. There was a couple ride-ons where I was like, whoa, this is why. I mean, I've had the privilege riding in the back a bunch of times and the front a bunch of times.
That's a different ride-along.
Oh, one time Sergeant Servant's like telling me how you look people up. He goes, what's your name? I'll look you up. I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. No, we're good.
Yeah.
My favorite all-time memory has to be of you is...
Tell me.
All right. So you, Quimlot.
Yes.
And who was the third? Bobby Yates.
Bobby Rife.
Oh, yeah. Bobby Yates was the other minister. You three were the Rook pastors.
They made us like fight to the death.
That's when me and
often.
Zach. Yeah, that's when me and Zach were kind of running things, and we were just messing with you guys. Remember, there's 5 services a day, and there's like a 3-hour break in between.
Yes.
And we told you guys some pastors got to be here, some pastors got to be here, even though we had security. And you know what? Quimlads, I don't think he still will talk to me. Once they realize we were just messing, we're right. You're the only one that we're just like,
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I think I understood. Culturally, I understood the hazing was like a thing. I was hoping that eventually I would get to do the hazing, but I never landed in that seat.
Zach was kind of my match out there. He's the one guy that came in that he was a big presence.
Right. I don't think I think honestly, all of those would be so fireable offenses now.
Oh,
like
bro.
Just the hazing culture within a church. There's probably like some dark chapters when you talk about trauma. But yeah, that's like your whole life in the 80s and 90s. You just like, that was what life was.
Yeah, shout out to Zach Jones. He was. I'd met my match with him. He was the one, because remember all those different reports. He's the one I didn't have a choice to listen to. But Zach was a big dude.
Yeah,
and he was intimidating. I got him in an office. I got him one time. Yeah, and the dude leaned forward in his chair, and it was the first time that I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to fight this guy. Maybe
I would take on
everyone else
August Hunter, former gang leader, before I'd want to sit in an office with.
In a second. The dude was giant. And one time, he's so gangster, I was in the room next to him, and me and Michael D were getting at it. And I respect Michael D. I love him. Now he's not working there. But you remember Michael D., right? He was
fly
there for
in,
years.
Fly out.
I don't even know what we got into about, but Zach was like, you two, come on. Takes us into the stairway and closes the door on us.
Michael D was like the coach of coaches. He was like a coach's coach.
Once Michael D realized Zach's just bringing us to the stairs and fight, I thought he was going to pee himself. Zach was no joke.
Bare knuckle pastoring.
There was going to be no. You can't be arguing near his office.
I love it.
He's like, finish it out here.
Yeah, I think you did more good than you did like reckless. You might have seen like the wake as wildly reckless, or people would probably pen that to you who were responsible for you above the like org chart. I'm certain that everybody that operated in the wake of your like influence as a team leader below is like, they have the same posture as me, is like, there was no guy that was going to fight harder for you. There's no guy that was going to sit there and like help you figure out the jump or the bump that you needed to like get through the obstacle. You were always like ready to go, ready to play.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, it's been a great freaking podcast. I knew this was going to be my favorite.
Hopefully, a few more episodes. I
do have, and I have to remind myself this sometimes. Actually, I don't need to remind myself, but people think I'm like anti-church. I'm not at all. I'm anti anyone telling me what to do ever.
I think people who assume you're anti-church, they haven't spent enough time with you to see what the like real journey has been like.
I will poke shots at the church and I'll ask
along with everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you better know what you're talking about if you're gonna come.
My mom used to say like, if you're in the car and I'm not making fun of you, I actually may not love you. So that probably sits inside of the same value system.
And I think you always know someone better when you really go to battle with them. So it just gives you a better. Thank you very much for your time. You're an awesome dude. Like I said, I would not. It's the greatest. Glad it's over, but the best experience I think of my life as far as like what equips you to be just like. Doesn't matter what you throw.
I would say go buy my book, but I haven't written one, so go buy Tommy's book, Aloha from Nebraska, or whatever he's written since then.
You don't need to buy it. If you see me, I'll give you one.
That's awesome.
Right on, brother. God
Thank you for having me.